Welcome along to another edition of How I Become a DJ. I love this series because I hope that people get to learn all the different ways in which my DJ friends have become DJs and ended up where they're at. And today, TCuts, one of my favourite hardcore jungle producers and DJs, is in the hot seat to tell me how I became a DJ. Tim, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Billy.
Brilliant, mate. I'm so excited that you've done a mix for the channel. I love your label, Mind Records. I love your style of DJing. There's such a distinct style that you have. How did you get into DJing? How did it all begin?
It all began, I suppose, getting into the rave music and stuff from quite a young age. I got taken to a rave when I was 14 in like 91, I think it was my first
golden year. 91.
Got taken to Stearns by a friend's parents one night. And just getting into it, started going out, started dipping into raves and everything that goes along with it, and therefore that then spurred the interest into DJing. Really,
can you explain Stearns to me? Because I only ever played at Stearns at the venue. What was the venue called?
Like High Down Towers, or it's the house on the hill.
Yeah. I played there once for Fusion in like 96, 97 a few times. But can you explain, Stearns, to me your experience of it in that period?
It's basically like a country house up the top of this hill in Worthing, about 4 floors maybe. It used to have the underground, which was, as it says, like a basement sort of thing, which was the main room. Then you had the middle floor, which used to be the garage room at the time. Top floor was kind of prototype jungle, but then there was like a cinema room, VIP room. You know, it was mental, and it was rammed sort of a good couple of thousand people like every Friday, Saturday night. So
amazing. Can you remember the first time you went as a 14-year-old? Can you remember what tunes were playing? Was there any sort of distinctive tracks that you can remember?
It was like end of November, I think. In 91, I know Grooverider was playing up there. So yeah, it was just a lot of, like, I suppose that Belgium sound. It was just hard, like pumping. I remember just walking in there and just being like, it blew my mind, you know.
Yeah.
Just appearing all of a sudden, I was in there. I didn't even really. It feels like a dream now when I think back. You know, I literally stayed at my friend's house and his parents were like, "Come on, we're going." I don't know how they got me in there. I don't really remember, you know, like I just remember being in there and being like, wow, this is insane.
An experience and a half. Yeah, because I hear such fondness spoken about it, and it's like, oh, it's one of them places I just didn't being so London based, I just didn't experience. I'd have been 16 when you was in there at 14.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty mad. And you know, there's people like Jay Cunning and stuff. I think he used to go there. And you know, when you sort of see pictures of people when they were younger, you're sort of like, I'm sure we said hello to one another back then. You know, it's pretty mad. And then it did that only, like, it was quite a short. Although back then it feels like years, doesn't it? But it was only really sort of 2 or 3 years, I suppose. Interdance were running from there, and then it got shut down over issues that go alongside rave scenes, and then it opened up a couple of years later as the Mansion House, which is probably when you played up there.
Correct.
Because I actually played back down there at one of my friends' nights. They put a night on, like a jungle pressure night, basically.
Fascinating. You know what? It fascinates me when I meet people who go to started out so young at such like a seminal club. What was your first gigs? What was your first experience of actually going on the turntables and then getting gigs?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, around that time, a friend of ours, he had a brother that was a bit of a geek, but he made himself a mixer out of Maplin's spare parts, basically, and we used to bundle around there. He used to do discos and stuff, but he had a load of like early sort of 91, 92 tunes, and all of us would get there. We'd all be terrible at mixing, all go back to back, all have a go on the microphone. We all had stupid names for each other, but I just sort of, I don't know, I chased my mates that had decks. I'd be going around there all the time learning, and then I got to a point where I felt confident enough to start playing this night in Worthing called Jungle Pressure. Took them a tape in, and then they booked me basically, and I was I think the first night I played was at a venue called The Factory in '94, I think it was. I went under a different alias at that point.
Right, what was your alias? Go on, because you said me and my mates had silly names for each other. Come on.
I thought it would be cool because I was a junglist DJ to call myself the Young Hustler.
What a name! The Young. What was you in? How old were you? 17?
Well, yeah, I was about 17. I think I played my first gig when I turned 18, basically. But I felt, because I'd already been raving for sort of 2.5 years at that point, I felt quite, I don't know, not knowledgeable of the scene, but I just felt like I was quite into it by that point.
Cocky and confident with it.
And a lot of my mates they all had, tunes around 93 time, but they sold all of those, got more into house, and I just kept playing sort of the jungle. And that night was run by Rock One and Quantum.
Right.
Quantum used to play at Stearns a lot. And then he also used to run the Krafty Cuts, his old record shop, across the tracks in Worthing, basically. So,
mate, Krafty Cuts, what a legend. Do you remember when he was into hardcore?
Yeah,
he was actually into happy hardcore then
times.
Yeah,
I remember when he brought this first tune in, because we'd go in there and he'd start scratching over stuff, much like I hear stories from other record shops that people scratching over tunes, and you're like, oh, this tune sounds amazing, and then you get it home and you realise without all the scratching and all the faffing around, they've picked the best bit of the tune and it's a terrible record,
Yeah, not a lot of people know that Krafty Cuts was Martin Happy Vibes. He had a label, a happy hardcore label called Happy Vibes, and he made records with Sign Unknown, and it was in the proper happy hardcore period.
Yeah, because I remember because he had this shop in Worthing. I think he maybe shut that down and then relocated to Brighton, and that opened up as HVR Records, or HVR, which is Happy Vibes Records. So
yeah.
And that all kind of was running the same time as My Friend's Night, Jungle Pressure, and Steppers Convention, which
I remember that name.
Yeah, they did that. It was the two of them, Ian and Banny, which was Quantum and Rock One. They went in with MC Matrix, I think.
Matrix was an another unsung hero.
Yeah.
Matrix was Brighton, right? From that way,
I think he was. Yeah.
Oh, he used to be I remember him from Dance Planet. Right. Matrix, like for some reason he was synonymous with Dance Planet, but he's also in my head now. You've mentioned it, synonymous with the Brighton scene.
Yeah, Origin, I think, was the other night. Maybe he had something to do with. I think there at the Corn Exchange.
Mate, the memories. I remember playing a hardcore night at the Corn Exchange, and Matrix. I'm convinced he MC'd for me at Corn Exchange for a hardcore night.
Right, yeah, quite possibly. I've seen a few clips from those Origins recently have surfaced on Facebook and stuff, and they look pretty mental. I didn't go, but some friends of mine went to those. But
yeah, I remember well. So you were cut your teeth playing out on jungle, but I also know you have an absolute love for hip hop as well.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
So I was playing under the Young Hustler guys till about, I suppose, 99, so about 98, 99. Put a tune out on Breakthrough Records with original vibes from Rock and Vibes. And
original vibes?
Yeah, he had a studio in Chichester, so I went and recorded that. And used to go to Music House and that sort of thing. But I think when it started going all techie, the scene started dropping off. My friends, they lost their residency that they had in Brighton, and it just sort of fizzled out. And obviously back then it was hard work to network and to make, to get new contacts. I had a few other gigs, but it kind of fizzled out. So that's when I started delving more into scratching and turntablism. I suppose the turn of the millennium. For a few years, I just kind of basically locked myself away, tried to hone the craft a bit more. And then got involved in a hip hop duo with a friend of mine called Kid Genius / Suave Debonair, and we'd go out and play various festivals and club nights and those sort of things. And that's how I got to meet Pete Cannon through the UK hip hop scene.
Right. How long ago was that you met Pete? Was that early noughties as well?
Yeah, probably 2010, something like that.
Oh, right. So okay, yeah,
thereabouts. It's a bit hazy, but around those times.
Because there's a great picture of you, Pete Cannon, and Amy Winehouse.
Yeah, Pete they were part of a crew with my friend as well called Tactical Thinking, and they were supporting Pheromonch at the Jazz Cafe. So we were up, you know, in the little VIP bit, and then my mate tapped me on the shoulder and like looked around. Amy Winehouse was just sort of stood right next to me watching the gig. So I sort of introduced myself and had a little chat.
So
really crazy.
in sort of like that turn of the noughties, was you doing hip hop and your love for jungle and old school?
I was playing more hip hop, but at the same time, I still had all my old record collections. So we quite often played for Sicker Studios, who were they were doing stage takeovers at like Naz Festival, Boardmasters, a few other little independent things. I mean, they're still doing stuff now. You know, they're doing stuff at Boomtown, and they've got Devilman and quite a few other people on their label. Yeah, so I still had this love for the old jungle. So I played like a '93 vinyl set at one of the Naz festivals, and you know, and I played a friend of mine put an old school night on with Gachet and stuff, which I played at, and so I was still playing my old tunes, but not as much. You know, my main focus was mainly more on the hip hop side of things at that point, I would say.
And when did you get the name TCuts? At what point did you start using that?
Yeah, that was about 2004, I suppose, because I've been scratching, and that's when I wanted to try and get out more DJing again, basically.
Right. So, and what was so you had the Young Hustler in the latter 90s, in which you made a tune. Was it just the one tune with the original DJ
I made
vibes?
a few. Yeah, I made a few with the studio. Most of them were just on dub plates, which I've still got. You know, I used to go up to Music House in my little Metro. Very green, obviously. Just didn't have a. Just felt very young in a big boy world at that point.
Yeah, you've really struck us, even with the original DJ vibes, mate. You've really pulled some names out here. What was your first tunes where TCuts, the name TCuts, got put on and people see TCuts as a producer in his own right?
I mean, I was making some hip hop beats and stuff around that time. Mainly didn't really ever do much with them. It was mainly just either making loops to scratch over, that kind of thing. And then it was really me and Pete just happened to get together, took some samples round, and we made a tune, which he put out on N4 on number 3, I think it was his third release. We made a tune called Buzzheads.
Right.
And that really kind of reignited. I'd always talk to Pete about the common ground we had with like jungle and stuff, and because he was that few years younger than me, he's always interested in my stories about it, and so it just kind of naturally evolved, really.
Yeah, because you have such a natural ebb for jungle. Like I say it like all of the time when I play your stuff on my radio shows or when I play it out at my underground gigs, I can really tell a TCuts jungle, like a ragga jungle tune, but then you have this really unique edge with 92, 93 sounding stuff. You just have a natural ebb in the modern era to really stand out to my eardrums. Do you think you can pinpoint why you've got such a unique style?
I can only put it down to just listening to the old tapes for so long, you know. Certain sets have obviously certain memories with you. There's a very, one that's very dear to my heart with Krome and Time from Stearns. I think Krome and Time was on one side, Bookham was on the other. That tape, it sounds weird, but I could probably nod off to sleep to it. You know, it's got some weird nostalgic, calmness to it. Listen, although it's mental and hectic 92 hardcore.
What tunes were on that set?
That's got that DJ Uproar, Bad Boy. Obviously some Krome and Time, Stampede. What else have we got on there? House Crew. What's it called? Hardcore.
We Are Hardcore.
That's it. We Are Hardcore.
We Are Hardcore. Yeah.
All of that kind of era, energy. Yeah.
I love Krome and Time. I don't know if you agree with this, and I say this quite a lot. Krome and Time played before me the other week actually in Colville, but from that era, and I can't really put them in an order, but for absolute, like, not only bangers in an underground sense, but also having such an authentic, distinct style. Nookie, Vibes and Wish Doctor, and Krome and Time. I don't know what, and House Crew have to go in there as well. But Krome and Time are just, in the wider sense, unsung heroes. But to me, absolute top 3 heroes.
Yeah, well, if you think of the hardcore that they had in '92, and then when it went into sort of more jungle, and when they had like the hits like License, I remember being at World Dance and everybody was rinsing out the License, and that was such a huge tune, like ridiculously big.
Yeah, and but also like Paramount, like side by side with that, they had their piano breakbeat hardcore as well.
Yeah.
On Zodiac as higher level, which was absolutely brilliant. Why do you think you're so drawn? Even though you did the hip hop, and I know you still love the hip hop, but you've been relentless in your pursuit of authentic hardcore, authentic jungle. Why do you think you have that relentless pursuit of just going forward with this authentic sound, but with new music?
Yeah, I feel it's like just a natural evolution in myself in a way, because I've always obviously wanted to DJ and push myself as a DJ, but life quite often gets in the way, and it takes a lot of graft, and when you've got 2 young kids, etc., you can't always put all that time and devotion into it because you've got to pay the bills and pay the mortgage and stuff. So I think I don't know, I say not having all that time to fully invest into it, circumstances changed in my life, which then gave me the drive to really kind of just go all in, and which is what I have done since really me and Pete sort of made that tune together. Really kind of something clicked in my head, and I kind of understood what it was a bit more about, really, I think.
Yeah, because I in a world where it would be so obvious to be a straight up modern drum and bass producer / DJ, or straight up house DJ and producer, there's so many, like, I'm going to use the word obvious commercialized paths that anyone with a talent who can play music or make music. I always admire the people like yourself. You're mentioning Pete Cannon. There's many people, and I always, for some reason, gravitate toward you guys who are doing something that is against the grain, even though it sounds like it's from a past life, and it is. The authenticity is from 35 years ago. I always admire you guys who don't follow the trends. Is that important for you, to not follow more commercial trends? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I think that the harder, if I was to try and write something like that for commercial gain, I feel it would just all go out the window. I like catching a vibe on a tune. That's what a tune is all about for me, is it has to have a vibe. If it hasn't got a vibe, then I'll scrap it off and start again,
Yeah, it is mad, the amount of variation in music that we can all play as fans of old school jungle rave hardcore music, and there's so much amazing music being made now that's authentic. There's so much amazing music from then. Do you feel like you're part of a unique movement, like a unique thing that's keeping this heritage alive, but with new stuff?
Definitely, definitely. It's amazing to see how it has changed, in the last 5 years or so. And you see people come in and go in, and ones that are really pushing their sound, and some people are trying to take it to new levels. Whereas I don't know, I just always like to keep that original sound in my music, really, rather than trying to take it somewhere else. Yes, it's great to try different things, but ultimately, I'm about that era that got me into it originally.
When you send me music, you've cut me 10-inch dubs in the past, you send me the vinyl, you send me the stuff before it goes off to be pressed, I hear it so natural from you. You just give me this music and it just feels so natural, whereas other people, like you say, some people try to move it on or do things, and that sometimes takes it away from its authenticity. And I believe that music's very honest, and you can tell someone's personality and you can tell their passion, and I always get that from you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm a little rough around the edges.
Which I love.
I got to shout out Danny Swankout because he always helps me. He does my mix downs for me. Like I get him to a certain point, but then he always puts his little secret sauce on there. So I've got to give Danny a shout on that one.
Yeah, we love Swankout. What producers in the modern day of modern hardcore and jungle do you check for, inspire you, and you think, yeah, they're good?
Well, obviously I like supporting all my pals for starts. You know, we've got Swankout, Pete, Arkin, Madcap makes some wicked tunes.
I love Madcap.
DJ B,
right,
who's one of Lloyd's mates. He makes some wicked sort of jungle techno and also jungle.
Do you remember back in the day when you could have 30 white labels in a pile? And I was thinking about this the other day. 30 white labels in a pile, and none of them would be written on, but somehow you just knew what every white label it is,
tell,
just
by
from
the length of it or the breakdown or whatever.
Yeah,
like, it's weird how the memory with picking a record up to having endless tunes on a USB stick is the one thing that I do.
Mind, tell me about Mind Recordings, its inception, its first release, the vibe of the label.
I wanted to just create a home for my music, essentially, to put my stuff out and also try and give other people the opportunity to put their music out where they might not necessarily be able to get it out there. Some younger producers like Fendi K and Disdain to put some of their tunes out. Another guy called Guilty by Association who makes some amazing breakbeat hardcore. And then I've put a tune out from Eminence on there. My homies out in San Francisco, out in Oakland, M27 and Keisha Boy, put some of their tunes out. So yeah, that's
yeah. I discovered some new artists that I never knew about until you sent me their stuff. We booked Eminence off the back of the release on your label.
Yeah. I suppose I think the whole inception was about 2018, something like that now, which seems ages ago.
Wow.
And like the logo with the brain in the helmet, that was just a 3 a.m. insomniac like little brainwave, basically. Literally.
8 years old, 7, 8 years old. It feels like it's a few years old.
Yeah,
the label.
It's crazy. And I've just sent off release number 19. I've sort of in the early days, I think it was sort of just before COVID and stuff. I was putting a lot more tunes out. I've slowed up a bit on the releases, but that's more just because I want longevity in the label, and
I really think that less is more.
Yeah.
Less is more to stand out in a world that everything's so fast paced, and just because we can release records doesn't mean that we should release records.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I like that. I like that you're thinking into the future of you want to preserve what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It's definitely, as I'm doing it more myself, just learning on the fly, really, as far as, running a label and that kind of thing.
Where can people buy your records from?
t-cuts.bandcamp.com.
Boom.
And my Instagram is @DJ TCuts. If you put TCuts into, obviously you'll get the car polish, which is where the name came from, the scratch protector. But,
before you go, I've got to ask you about skateboarding.
Oh, yes.
Tell me about the skateboarding. Because it makes you even cooler. Like this guy who makes really authentic hardcore and jungle. He's a wicked hip-hop DJ and rave DJ, but you're also skateboard. Tell me about the skateboarding.
Yeah, I started skateboarding when I was about 11, so about 88, I suppose that was, when it was a lot of pink shorts, lanky long hair, and was bang into it. I had a few years off, funnily enough, when I discovered raving and going out. But then when I turned sort of 20, I got back into it and pretty much skated regularly up until now. But I think that, to be fair, skateboarding definitely teaches you a lot of determination, because you're the only person that can better yourself. You've got no team to rely on. It's just down to you. So there's so many. You're probably 90% on the floor, maybe 10% riding away from it. So that teaches you a lot in life, not to be knocked back, to just keep going.
Yeah. I think the skateboarding makes you even cooler
Oh.
than you already are. Tim,
Well, not back then though. To be fair, when I was at school, like there were only a handful of skaters, if that. And I got so much crap. We'd get bullied by the townies in town nicking our skateboards. And then now it's like I've got all those guys because they're kids and now want to learn how to skate. They all think I'm cool now. And
well, when you was over, when you was sending us the lowdown when you was in Canada, not Canada, in San Fran and San Francisco. Where else did you play? Like Oakland?
I played in Oakland and also in Humboldt County as well.
Right. So yeah, last year when you was like sending us all here I am here, and you was skateboarding.
Yeah.
I just think that is so cool.
Yeah, it was. My friends out there because they're skateboarders as well, so they took me around to all the famous spots around San Fran that I've watched, for years. So,
brilliant.
Yeah, it was a dream trip. That
Tim,
was only this year, actually. Funnily enough.
Tim, I love you.
I love you too.
Thank
Dan.
you for telling us.
Thanks for getting us
your
down
DJ
there.
story.
Yeah, thank you.
Boom.
Thank you.